Hey Nick, it's great to meet you. Thanks for coming on, even though you're in the driver's seat of your car here. As you mentioned, doing some multitasking, and that kind of seems consistent with your whole life there, with everything you got going on.
100%. It is, and it's not the norm, but sometimes you gotta roll with the punches.
Yep, for sure. So you're out there in Wilmington, North Carolina, which
Yeah,
for the moment's not getting hit by a hurricane. It seems like this is about the time of year it does.
yeah. Unfortunately, thankfully, we haven't had anything bad since 2018. The 2018 was the last bad one, and hopefully we keep it keep that trend going for a long time.
Yeah, fingers crossed for sure.
Yeah,
As I mentioned, a buddy of mine is athletic director at a school out there. I know they lost their roof in a hurricane back then, so off the gym. So keeping our fingers crossed for you guys.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So, hey, I was really interested in your whole story there. You served. I was looking at pictures. I couldn't tell. Was that over in Iraq where you served, or where were you at?
I was so for 2000 2012. I've been in Turkey, all over Southeast Asia, Iraq, Afghanistan multiple times. Um, so it was a long 12 years, and like I said, it was from 2000 2012. I call those the fun years, because we were busy. But Bill, if you add up all my time, I was actually out of those 12 years, I was gone for six.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, impressive. All right, and you were a Marine Raider, is that right?
Yeah, I came in as a Marine, then went to Force Recon, became a Force Recon Marine, spent some years in the recon community, and then took selection, Second Force Reconnaissance Company, rolled up their flag one day, and next day they became what's now Second Marine Raider Battalion. And it was kind of funny. I was a staff NCO at the time, and I just got done being a platoon sergeant at a recon battalion, and it was time to come back to what was Second Force, but they changed the name, and they're like, "Hey, Nick, you got to go back through selection." I'm like, "Dude, I've already done this. Like, I mean, how many more selections do I got to go?" They're like, "Well, you got to go through selection because you missed the time window of coming back, and everybody from this window forward." I'm like, "What the heck?" So I had to go back through A&S, assessment and selection, as a staff NCO, and I was already on a team in a leadership role at the unit. And it was funny, one of my juniors that was on my team, he was my radio guy on my team, was actually cadre, was an instructor at selection.
Oh, wow.
And and I told him, I pulled him real close. I said, if you mess with me, I said it some other words, but I said, if you mess with me when I get back, I'm gonna put you in a wall locker. And we had a good laugh. But honestly, when I went through assessment and selection, and I saw the process, I saw who did not get selected, who got selected. I was like, oh, this is a really good product. It was pretty tough, and I'm glad that I went through, because I had the experience of going through, and then I also gave it my own stamp of approval. So like I was like, oh, this really is bringing in a higher quality candidate into special operations. And and even though that I was, had been in Force Recon, had deployments under my belt, I still saw it as like, oh, this is highly valuable, and it was a good selection process.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. How did you develop individually while you were involved with all these stages of your service? Versus, and looking back, even though like the young man that you were before you went into the service, I mean, what kind of seismic changes probably occurred with you then?
Yeah, it's now I'm 43. And I've done, I've lived probably like three different lives of a normal person. But looking back, even as my troubled youth, and you kind of alluded to it, by the time I was 13, I had two felony convictions as an adult, which I didn't know about at the time. I thought there was a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, I was like, oh, these are still on my record. This is the problem.
Especially if you're trying to
Um,
go in the military. Yeah.
well, that was a whole other thing. I was already in when I found out.
Oh,
How
wow.
I actually found out, Bill, was I came back from Okinawa, and I spent 3 years at Third Recon Battalion, and I came and I did, several deployments over there, and I came back to America. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm gonna come back to America. I'm gonna buy a truck. I'm gonna go get my concealed handgun permit. I'm gonna go buy some pistols, and I remember going to file for my pistol purchase permit here in North Carolina, and I went to the sheriff's office to pick it up, and they were like, "Man, you can't buy a pistol. You're a convicted felon." And I said, "What?" Now, Bill, at this time, I'm 26 years old. I have a top secret clearance,
Right.
and I'm serving in the Special Operations Command at Marine Special Operations. I'm a part of SOCOM, 26-year-old with a top secret clearance, and I can't buy a handgun. But I can carry one and go die in war overseas, for our
Right.
country and the global war on terror. But I cannot own a gun in the United States. And I was like, oh wow. But then I called a lawyer back in the county in Florida, told him the whole story, and he was like, "Oh, this is absolutely ridiculous." And I mean, the guy was just a stand-up human being. He said, "Dude, he's like, listen, I'm going to take your case to a judge that I know, and we're going to get this taken care of." And he took care of me. But
Nice.
to go back to your question, um, now I have lots of guns. Um,
Yeah.
but to go back to your question, I think that ever since I was a young man, I was always looking for the next rung on the ladder up in life.
Right.
Like there was something in me. And me and my brother grew up, and my brother's very much like my grandfather. My grandfather served, he was drafted in Korea, did 2 tours in Vietnam as a paratrooper, retired out. And unfortunately, I think just the Agent Orange, the old stuff, he died at
Mm.
67. He died at 67 from essentially old age. His body just shut down, his organs shut down at 67 years old
Damn.
in 2002. Right.
Mm.
Great, great man. Like he was really the male role model, but he was the most consistent person. He did not want for anything.
Right.
He was like, I need my coffee cup, my boat, and then I'm going to go fishing. And that was his life.
Right.
That was his life. And my brother's very much like that. So me and my brother were raised together, with a single mom. And we couldn't be more opposite. Like I'm still like the next thing, go one
Right.
more kind of mindset, like, we were talking about Nick Bear earlier. Um, but like I'm always trying to grow, challenge my perspective, get better at something, you know what I mean? Um, and that's never changed. And I even
Mm.
look back at it then, and I'm like, even in the military, so growing through, teenage years, it was just always something more. And for instance, I finished the 10th grade. I caught up in school, had to go to alternative school because I got arrested. It was in juvie and got
Yeah.
behind. And so I went to an alternative school, made it out of that, got to high school. But when I finished the 10th grade, I started working at a place called Bay Point Marriott in Panama City Beach, Florida.
All right.
And a lot of people know where that is.
Mhm.
And in the morning, I was an audiovisual technical consultant for the conference center, making like, and this is in the 90s, I was making like $15 an hour as like a 16-year-old kid. And then in the afternoon from 2:30 to 10, I was working as a bellman, and I mean, it was like having a rake and raking up cash tips. Like it
Yeah.
was just absolutely ridiculous. So I was making close to sometimes 4 grand a week in cash
As a
between the two
16-year
jobs
old. Yeah.
as a
Nice.
16-year-old.
Yeah.
So when it came time to go back to school after that summer and for the 11th grade, I'm like, I don't see the value in this.
Right.
I don't want to talk about photosynthesis and give up, $18,000 or somewhere between 15 and $20,000 a month cash. So I didn't. But this weird thing happened after a while of doing that is I was like, oh no, this might be my life for the
Mm.
next couple decades.
Right.
And I saw it's funny now being, as you age, but I saw the hotel manager and then the bellman manager, and in my mind they were like 60 years old. I was like, I don't want to be them
Right.
you know what I mean, at an older age and still doing the same job. So I kind of panicked, and I make a joke of it that I hit the nuclear option and just blew up my life. I had a I had a house, a teenage 16, 17 years old, at a house on the beach. I'm making all that money. Life was good. And I gave it all up to go join the military.
Wow.
And I was like, well, let me go talk to the recruiter. So I went and talked to the recruiter, and he told me, he did a sales pitch and then he ran my information. And he just came out shaking his head. I'll never forget. He's like, you're not joining the Marine Corps, nor are you joining any branch of the military. He's like, you're a high school dropout, you're a convicted felon, you've got all this other stuff going on. And I was like, but I want to join. And keep in mind, this is during the Clinton era where like he was just crushing the military, like
Yeah.
just absolutely draw down and everything. Um, gotta gotta say he did a great job at reducing the debt to include DOT.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, he crushed some things. But they were like, there's no way you're joining the military. And there's this weird thing, this weird trait that I have that's both positive and negative is if you tell me I can't do something, I it, it just fires me up and I go, okay,
Right.
watch
You,
me.
you bet.
And so he told me no, and I was like, all right, well, I blew up my life. I quit my job, I left the house, I moved in with my grandmother. I was like, okay, you don't want a high school dropout, but you're okay with college dropouts. So I got my GED, went to do a semester of college because, like I said, the military hates high school dropouts, but they love a college dropout. You know,
Right. Sure.
and so I did that, and it took me almost 2 years. But after going through that, and a whole bunch of other stuff, I got 100 letters of recommendation, got waivers for everything, and I just proved myself, and I gave them a reason to bet on me and and finally made my way in. But then it
Yeah.
wasn't enough, right? It was never enough,
Right.
and I've learned that I have to be very careful about this because when I joined, that wasn't enough. I wanted more, so I wanted to be the company honor grad, which I became. I wanted to, and then I wanted to excel in my community, in my command, and I did. And so I wanted, then it was like, well, what's next? Force Recon. That was the top of the Marine Corps at the time. So I did
Yeah.
that. And then Special Operations came around. I was like, well, that's next. And then there's, special mission units. And I was like, well, I want to take selection for that. And it just was never enough. And it came to a point to where my career in the military in some ways was capped out based on my effort
Right.
because now I'm in a system that my hard work doesn't necessarily mean my growth.
Right.
Like you're in the military industrial complex where it's just a time and numbers game.
Yep.
And so here I am, this kid, right, that's used to putting those to the grindstone, and my effort being what I sow is what I reap. And all of a sudden I hit this wall. Not to mention, like I said, I was gone for 6 years, so I was getting bitter, and there was a lot of frustrations there, and a lot of deployments, and a lot of loss. I lost a lot of friends. We lost a lot of brothers. So all of that kind of built up, and I was like, well, okay, well, it's time for me to exit because I want my effort to be a direct return of investment of what I get.
Oh, yeah. No, that totally
And
makes sense to me. And
and and
yeah.
that was the decision to leave.
Yep. Well, first of all, Nick, you're probably the first person I've ever heard of who goes to college with the express intent of dropping out. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it reminds me, back in the 80s, I did some consulting work to Arthur Anderson, which they have some sort of made up name now, but they were a big accounting and consulting firm. And what I hated about them was that you got promoted in that organization based on a timeline only. So after 2 years, you were either promoted or you were cut. And then
Yeah.
after another 5 years, you were either promoted or cut. Didn't matter if you were the best of the bunch, you had to wait that certain amount of time. And I absolutely hated that kind of environment.
I can't live in that. That does My
No,
brain doesn't operate that way.
no, no, not at
Yeah.
all. I don't know. anybody's who does, but apparently it works for some people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
So,
then going back to my brother, it's funny because like we were raised the same way, but my brother, he joined the army, did his thing, got out, and he is like, I'm like, come on, Chris, you want to do this? He's like, no, man, all that stress and all that work that you do. He's like, I'm good just where I'm at. I got my house, I got my kids, the river's there, and I'm like, yeah, you are just like Papa. This is
right.
crazy, and he is content and as happy as can be, and it just shows the diff. And so it's there's been some as I've gotten older, it's been some respect to that level as well, right? I can see how I create a lot of my own headaches. And I also for some reason, I couldn't appreciate the people that are content and live that way,
Right.
right? I'm like, don't you want more? He's like, no, I'm, this is great
Yeah.
what I have, and I have to be careful because sometimes, like I said, if you tell me no, I can make it happen. Well, sometimes maybe I shouldn't make it happen. Maybe it's a no for a good reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's
No,
something that
totally.
I've had to learn through wisdom and age and time of discerning like am I going to force this to happen even though I doesn't necessarily need to, you know?
Right.
So,
It's kind of the difference between somebody decides, hey, I'm going to become an accountant and just work in a nice, steady CPA firm, or goes to work for the government, which until recently was a nice, steady, guaranteed job kind of thing. And
right.
it's kind of like the way you guys grew up. I mean, your brother just went through the normal process, didn't end up being a punk getting a felony conviction
Hmm.
like you were.
Yeah.
But you probably got that conviction because you were trying to find a way upward and uh, outside the bounds of what you're supposed to do. But
Right.
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 So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've known a lot of people over the years who are like you say, very comfortable sitting on a fishing boat, and it's even the difference between. I had a girlfriend one time who she wanted to take a Caribbean vacation. She said, "This just isn't going to work with the two of us, is it? Because I just want to go and lay on the beach. You're going to go find the tallest mountain on the island and go run up and down it, aren't you?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, pretty much." So,
Yeah.
so I said, "Yeah, we can always get together in the evening, but yeah, we won't be doing the same thing during the day."
Yeah.
Oh well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went through your stint in the military. At some point, though, you decided it was time to take the off ramp.
Hmm.
Um, did you have any plan when you came out, or was it just being thrown out into that wide world of who knows?
No, I mean, yes and no. So I had done very well networking, and when you're in special operations, you meet a lot of people, right? You do a very
Good
particular
people.
job. Yeah, you
Yeah.
meet a lot of good people, a lot of people in contracting. So I had some contacts and stuff lined up when I got out, and I pretty much within a couple months landed a very well-paying job, what I thought was a well-paying job at the time. And I was like, oh man, I hit it big. And even though I got a really good six-figure job right outside of the Marine Corps. Um, I was falling apart.
Yeah.
I was falling apart, and that was probably one of the worst times of my life for sure. Definitely top three worst time periods of my life.
Yeah. You okay talking about what was going on?
Absolutely, man. I even wrote a
Yeah.
book about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had this idea of getting out, like everything was just going to be sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, I've done my time in service. I'm going to get out. I'm going to make all this money. Life's going to be good. No one's going to own me. I'm going to be the captain of my own ship. And the problem is, moved. When you do a job like that, and in my personality, I was going so hard, so fast, for so long that and I use the analogy of like you're on a set of train tracks, and you're the engine, and you're going 300 miles an hour. Well, and you're going 300 miles an hour for over a decade. Well, you're constantly moving to the next thing. So as things are happening, you're collecting baggage. You're collecting train cars,
Right.
and those train cars are loaded down with baggage. But it's not a problem because you're moving 300 miles an hour, so they're all behind you moving 300 miles an hour. So it's not a big deal. You're just cruising, right? But when you get out you go from 300 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour. But if you know anything about physics, those train cars
Right.
are still moving 300 miles an hour, and they smack you right in the back of the head. And that was something I did not see coming. I did not see that coming. And it kind of it threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
And everything from a big portion of it, Bill, was identity. For so long I was Nick, the recon Marine,
Right.
Nick, the Marine Raider, the guy that did special operations, the guy that does this job, jumps out of planes, dives, you know, goes and fights in Afghanistan, does asymmetrical warfare, does operation intelligence, does all kinds of special things. And now I'm not that guy. So if I'm not that guy, who am I? Because I had everything my entire identity was wrapped up into this thing that I did.
Absolutely. See it many, many times, whether it's
And
somebody who's retired from a job or somebody who, an athlete who gets injured and suddenly can't do their job. It's like if their identity is all wrapped into that,
mhm.
that's a major, major hit there.
And I use that in my book. I use that analogy of a guy that does pee wee football from the time he can remember, all the way up until like the pros or
Yep.
college, and he doesn't remember never playing
Right.
football. He is a footballer. He doesn't even have the world of when he didn't play football, and he blows out his knee at 23 years old. What do you think what he's going to do and how he's going to process that?
Yeah.
It's not well.
Nope.
It's not well. And through this work that I've done now, I've met a lot of guys like that, law enforcement, athletes, stay-at-home moms, that we attach our identity to this thing. Anyways, so that really threw me for a loop. Losing a lot of people, a lot of loss. I this last Memorial Day, I was sitting around the table with a friend and family, and he was a former teammate of mine, now business partner. We've been friends for, geez, man, almost 20 years now. And um, I realized this is the first time I realized that I had over 50 dead friends.
Ooh.
To me, Bill, that's normal.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that it hit me that, and because my wife was there, his girlfriend was there, and they were like, that's not normal.
Right.
So during this time, all of that kind of started to catch up with me too, because you got to remember, like, you're on a mission, somebody dies, you pick up the pieces literally, and then once the medevac's gone, you continue on with the mission. And then
Yep.
you get back to get back to base, you say your farewells, but guess what happens the next day? The next mission.
Right.
So you just continue to move on. And so when I got out in 2012 and then going into 2013, there was I started to have things come up and process that was happening in 2006, that had happened in 2006, and it just completely threw me for a loop. Plus, medically, all of these things that I put off, all these injuries and all this wear and tear on my body, um, started to kind of catch up with me.
Wow.
And I really think, and we see this a lot in operators where, it's like an object in motion stays in motion, and all of a sudden you slow down, you're not doing that job all the time. Your
Right.
body starts to catch up with all the wear and tear that you've had on it. And so that threw me for a loop. Everything started to hurt. I mean, I didn't sleep from 2009 to 2014. I didn't have a good night's sleep.
Oh, damn.
So that, I mean, I'm barely at all, Bill. Like, I barely slept at all until I went to the brain clinic in 2014. And that was the first night that I got a full 8 hours of actual decent sleep, was in the brain clinic. Was in 2014 from
Huh.
2009.
Okay.
Um, so all of this stuff just built and built and built. And I felt like I had wasted my life I felt like I had been lied to, and I was like, all I did, all this sacrifice, and here I am. My body is completely destroyed. Um, my friends are gone. Eh, my self-worth is pretty nothing, and it really led me to trying to process all that. It led me to a night that I almost committed suicide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. So what? I mean, it's not uncommon what you're talking about there, but at the same time, I mean, I also think about, your physical injuries there. I mean, if you're not sleeping, that's, obviously that's when you're repairing your body
hmm
and your brain and everything else. So you're just creating this whole downward spiral there.
it's a huge negative snowball effect, right?
Yeah, totally.
And
Yeah.
and now I go check into the VA, and I don't want to make this like a bashing on the VA, but I go check in the VA, and next thing I know, I walk out with 11 different prescriptions of uppers and downers and
Mm.
all these different dream erasers and adrenaline blockers and all this kind of stuff that only compounds every single problem.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, probably get one
And
prescription canceling out another one there. Yeah.
causing a symptom of another thing that you need another medication for. I mean, it was
That's the
just
American healthcare system for you, right?
I always laugh. I'm like, they're like, we should have socialized healthcare. I'm like, we have socialized healthcare. Go talk to a veteran. It's not great, I promise you.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So yes,
um,
you had to get pulled out of that abyss somehow, right?
yeah, it really was the night that I almost ended it, that I realized that something had to change.
Yeah,
I realized that something had to change, and I didn't know what. I didn't have the tools, right? I didn't have the tools that I needed to do to like to grow, to heal, to figure out things. But I knew that something had to change. And when I walked back in the house that night, I just went right back to the bottle. I was drinking heavily during that time because that was the only tool that I had, right?
right,
But I knew that I needed to be on the journey, and that's really when it started to go, okay, I'm gonna start figuring some things out. I'm
right.
going to start doing some self-discovery. I'm going to lean into myself and growth, and figure all this stuff out. And by no means did it happen overnight. I would say if you really wanted to say how long this took, I would say it would be probably from the time I made the decision to fix this, to the time where I was like really really like cooking, moving with some gas, was
Right.
4 years. I would say from 2014 to 2018
Wow.
was and I got better. I got better from 2014 to 2016 was probably like the hardest years, but I still had to do some like growing up and some maturing things from 16 to 18 that really helped, some personal growth stuff here. Um, but that was it, man. Those 4 years was hard. That was a hard 4 years.
Yeah,
But we choose our hard, right? We either hard now or
totally.
hard now, easy later, or we can keep choosing the easy path, and we're gonna have it really hard later.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, what made it hard was I mean, what challenges were you taking on that obviously you purposely set up these hurdles for yourself, so to speak, yeah, what was the challenge getting over those?
so the first one out the gate is ego, right? Here you are, this big bad Marine Raider supposed to be,
Mm,
and I had to let go of the ego of what someone's expectations of me were, how I was supposed to act. So when you're talking about all this, you're talking about this stuff, you're like, I mean, I went through every different therapy that you could do.
yeah.
I had to be open to do like the most weirdest, pokiest stuff that people would be like, "Oh, that's gay," or "That's whatever." Like listen, man, I'm open to whatever to where I can learn and grow. And some of the stuff was hokey, and,
Right.
and some of the stuff was extremely beneficial. And but what I learned from it was being vulnerable and saying, "Listen, I just want to get better. I want to become the very best version of myself, and I will do that by any means necessary." So what I did was I took the mission that, like our mission when we do things, is always the Marine Corps motto really is like, I will accomplish the mission by any means necessary. Well, the mission for me became myself
Right.
for the first time really in my life.
Hmm.
And so that meant by any means necessary. And I have this clip that went viral that I got torn up for, but I still stand by it. And because I was that guy, I say like, these guys that go overseas or anybody, I don't care who it is, anybody that gets down in the dumps and feeling sorry for themselves and just having a hard time and they want to throw in the towel. I just don't buy it, especially with these guys that are really like the warrior culture, the veterans that come over, that come back. Like, so you're telling me you took the fight to the enemy, you accomplished the mission by any means necessary, you dealt with loss, you dealt with the hard stuff, you dealt with the command being full of shit and everything that you had to deal with. And what breaks you coming home is civilian life.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I think it's a cop out. I think that the problem, what I did was I didn't take that same warrior spirit, that same warrior mentality, and flip it in verse on what I had going on right now.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what
And
I
all
did
those
was
years of training should have prepared you better, you're saying, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
Like mentally it should have, but we're always focused on an external foe, right?
Mm,
An
right.
external objective. But and then what happens is it turns into an internal objective.
That's really
And we
interesting. Yeah. Yep.
and we have to fight that fight on an internal level and in a lot of ways, Bill, that's a lot harder.
Totally it is.
It's a lot
Because
harder.
as you said, first of all, you got to check your ego, and
Hmm.
then you don't want to appear vulnerable to all your peers out there, especially if you've been in the
Right.
military where you're Mr. Tough Guy. And
Yeah,
secondly, yeah,
vulnerability is a bad word.
yeah,
Vulnerability in a mission, vulnerability in position, vulnerability of your gear, your position, whatever it is, vulnerability is a bad word. But I had to learn to let go of that dialogue, that let go of that rhetoric and go, okay, no, no, vulnerability is actually a superpower. And you can talk about you can
right,
talk about all the thought leaders and Brene Brown and a lot of people out there that are talking about what happens when you open yourself up to vulnerability in your relationships, in your parenting, in your business, even just in like our conversation, right?
yeah,
You take away the wall, it's like, oh wow, this is how I feel connected. This is now I can actually affect change. You're giving a place and not to give them excuses. It's not what I'm saying,
yeah,
but like, I'm not for excuses. Like, so what? Yeah, life's hard. I get that. What are you going to do about it?
right,
You know? And I think that's where things started to really shift. And it wasn't overnight. It was just, consistency, chopping at this thing for a long period of time and being really open to the possibilities of what could be.
you bet. So what were you doing during this period of 2014 to 18? I mean, where did you find yourself in civilian life while you're doing all this internal work?
Well, 2014, I learned that you can get fired.
Right,
That was a wake up call to me. On a Monday, I had 26 people, 26 Marines that I was supporting in or in a training environment. I was in an office in a secured area with three Marines downrange. I was supporting. I got a call on my my secure phone from my team lead up in Virginia, and he goes, "Hey man, so they just canceled your contract."
Hmm.
Midday on a Monday morning, midday on a Monday.
Wow.
And I was like, You're kidding, right?" He goes, "No." I said, "Dude, I got 26 Marines in here and I'm supporting three guys downrange in an active op." They're like, "Dude," he's like, "You're done." He's like, "We'll talk about this later. We're trying to work something out. But as far as this contract, they want you off of it."
Phew.
And so I packed up my little box, like you see in the in the movies. I got a little
Right.
box, put all my shit in it, and I walked out the door, and that was it. And man, I tell you what, I was floored,
Yeah.
floored. Um, I was like, I just got fired. Like my paychecks are gonna stop.
Yeah.
And anyways, so that was a shock, and And the next day, I got a call from one of my. I had built a team for what I was doing, and I got a call from one of my teammates that I brought onto my team, and he said, "Hey, I'm in." He goes, "I'm in Virginia. I'm in Northern Virginia, right outside the Beltway." And he goes, "Hey, dude, you know that program that you orchestrated that we built?" He goes, "They just rolled it out to the entire company
Hmm.
as SOP."
Wow.
And I mean, this company now is value. It's a publicly traded company. It's valuated in the billions, I believe. And
Sons of
that,
bitches.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
it's their intellectual property. I work for
Right.
them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when he told me that, the very next day, I had a job offer for another company, making just about the same, if not a little more. And I turned it down.
Yeah.
And the reason why I turned it down was I said, well, wait a minute, if I can build something for $1 billion corporation and then they take it and they roll it out as their standard operating procedure for their entire company. I was like, if I can do that for them, I can do it for myself.
And the
So
next company could do the same thing to you as well.
right.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going off on my own.
Right.
I'm going off on my own. I started my very first company, which of course, and I was like, I had this whole business plan and this idea and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a multimillionaire within a year, and we're just gonna this thing's gonna blow up. And Bill, none of that happened. It was the most, I struggled so hard. That was such an enormous amount of work. And and in my mind, that was my first colossal failure. But
But you learned.
yes,
Oh,
that
yeah.
failure is what led me to my next company, which led me to my next one, which led me to my next one. And at one point, and at the same time, I'm helping veterans. I ended up working with a nonprofit called Gallant Few. We ended up starting a project under them called the Raider Project. That grew its own legs. I was helping Marines and Special Operations Marines transition to civilian life and all the stuff that I was going through.
Cool.
So I was kind of going through it with them, and that's what gave me the ability to start going through I was like, well, if I'm going to put these guys through these therapies and this, whether it's horse therapies and retreats and all these different things and um, forgot the name of the therapy, but EMDR.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yep.
I'm going to go through it myself as a guinea pig to make sure it's not hocus pocus before I put them through it. But
Right.
by putting myself out there, that's where I got all the healing and trying all these different things. So it really sped up my transition, and sped up all this stuff. But all of this came from when I got let go.
Right.
All of it happened when I let all of the stuff happen. Like, oh, and keep in mind, I'm married. I got two kids.
Right.
I'm trying to make ends meet, and I just went all in on myself. And I said, I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to take myself to business school, and I did. I just took myself to business school, and not actual school, like real life business school. And every single failure, every single misstep led to the next opportunity. And the one thing that I'll say, like people ask me, why am I successful? And now I have a 7-figure business and two 8-figure businesses.
Right.
And the one reason that I am where I am is because I never gave up.
Right.
I never quit. Not really. I just kept moving forward no matter what happened.
Beautiful.
And and so one business turned in at one point turned into 7 businesses, which is I don't recommend that. That was too much. Um,
Right.
and then we scaled down to really managing 3. And then so now I have my 3 core businesses that are really, really thriving, that are really serving humanity in a really positive way. And that's been the journey. And really those have been kind of narrowed down and nailed down since 2018. So
Yeah.
you see the effect of really going all in on yourself on personal growth and challenging your perspective, challenging your ego constantly, and really looking inward at yourself because you are the asset. You are the asset that, for better or worse, it's all on you. There's no one coming to save you. There's no one coming to hand you, money. You have to go and learn how to take it for yourself.
Yeah,
And so
totally.
it's all on you. Yeah.
Yep. And not only the asset, I'm going to continue that thought in a second, but it's that old adage about when one door closes, another one opens, and obviously you got to be willing to jump right through it.
But yeah, that you
Yeah,
got to take the opportunity. You got to see when it happens and be able to continue to move forward. And you can't allow fear and limiting beliefs. And that's the biggest thing that was
that
holding
was the
me up
second
is,
part I was going to get to, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah,
I had the limiting beliefs and fear of all of it. And um, but I didn't allow it to own me. Even though I had it, I didn't allow it to own me. And I just constantly took the leap,
right.
constantly.
Yeah,
And I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, I told my now wife, because and through all this 2014 stuff, I also got divorced and filed bankruptcy. And so, I was just
yeah,
going through it. It was rough. But um, I told my now wife, I said, listen, babe, one way or another, we're going to be in a van living down by the river. You know,
right. The country
the old
music
joke.
song, right? Yeah,
Yeah. And I'll be in a van down by the river. And I said, it just depends on how nice the van is. If we're super successful, it'll be a really nice van. Otherwise, it'll just be a regular van. But all roads basically lead to the same thing. I said,
right.
so I've got nothing to lose, and I'm going all in.
Nice.
Yeah.
One other truism that you kind of exemplified, I'm sure you could probably agree with this right now, is I always said, anytime you have you lose a job, you quit a job, you have a relationship that breaks up, whatever, I have every single time looked back and said, damn, I wish that had happened sooner.
Yes. Yeah.
Because sometimes you need that kick in the butt out the door. Otherwise,
It's
you get
true.
really comfortable. I mean, I was in the tech business and I hated everybody I worked with, but the money was too good. So
Hmm.
I didn't leave. It
Hmm.
wasn't until that company got sold and then it got sold to somebody else. And I'm just like, I'm done with this turnover here that I
Hmm.
started my first business. So, but I needed that impetus basically. And I look back and it's like, yeah, the money was good, but God, I needed to get away from that. It was eating me alive.
It's not always this. I mean, money is great. Money causes, it fixes problems. It can do a lot of good in the world, but if you're chasing a buck, you're always going to chase a buck. You got to fall in love with the fight. You got to fall in love with the journey.
Right,
You guys are runners. You got to fall in love with the pace where you're at right now. It can't be about the destination. You're just doing the thing. How far are you
right,
going to go? I don't know. We were talking about the backyard ultras where you're doing the
right.
loops.
Yeah,
How far are you going to go? I don't know. We're just going right now. We're doing this loop.
right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yep,
But right now I'm doing life. I'm going to do life as best as I can right now.
yeah. And totally, yeah, you got to stay focused on that loop here because you can't start the
Mhm.
next loop unless you get that loop done.
Right.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's jump into these businesses you have here because you got some really cool stuff going there. And, first of all, you've continued that model that you talked about that you developed for the billion-dollar company that
Hmm.
you've pretty much employed, or you employ that method right now, if you would. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
facets to it. Going through your website, I mean, there are a lot of different places you can go that are all serving that same purpose there, which I think is very, very noble.
Yeah, one of them, one of the fun ones. We had a big day today. Johnny Slicks, me and my business partner, he got out of the Marine Corps and started working on a formula. And long story short, he was selling plasma. He was doing all kinds of stuff. Um, he was doing all kinds of stuff to make money to sell this stuff. He got a hold of me. He shot me a message for like I want to say every week for 6 months. And I just thought I was already doing business and stuff. And I'm like, dude, give me a break. And finally I linked up with him and I got his product. And he was like, no kidding, 2017, 2018, like doing door-to-door salesman stuff, trying to sell grooming products.
Right.
And and I got it. And we actually did a podcast this morning talking about it because we kind of hit a big milestone today. And we were laughing. I was like, the marketing sucks, the brand sucks. but the juice inside the jar is worth millions. And I knew, I told my wife, and this is the time, like I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got seven, I've got like six businesses. And I told my wife, I was like, I got to partner with this guy. I got to partner with this kid and we got to blow this thing up. And she's like, babe, you can't just go around taking people's businesses. And I'm like, but I can. And he's got a good thing and he needs our help. And anyways, so because we had the infrastructure, I've known John for at this point for like 3 weeks, and I give him a call, and I'm in Texas doing a speaking event, and I said, hey John, like I think you've got really something, man. And I text him and I go, hey, when I get home next week, let's set up a date and let's talk about Johnny Slicks. I think I got some opportunities for you. And he texts me back. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you. He's 24 at the time, 23,
Oh,
24 years
wow.
old at the time. Yeah. And he goes, I'm going to be honest with you, Nick. He's like, if we don't talk on the phone right now, I'm not going to sleep for a week until you get back. So let's just hash this out now. So we jumped on the phone. I say, hey, listen, dude, I think you and I should partner. And I think you've really got something special that we can grow that really means something, that will help a lot of people and can make a lot of money. And and I said, I don't want an answer. I said, I want you to think about it, but I'm super passionate about this thing. I think that this is a game changer. And I think we can really bring this to market in a big way. And so we met at a Chipotle, him and his wife. Um, we worked it out. We created a company. He didn't even have a company created or anything. So we created a
Wow.
company
Right.
and uh and we launched this thing and it just took off. And we have literally doubled revenue every single year for the past 7 years. We're into our eighth year.
Damn.
And what it is it's all American made. It's 100% American made, 100% organic grooming products. So shampoo, conditioner, body washes, hair stuff, beard stuff, and and man, it's just taken the world by storm. This is our first year that we've entered into retail. We've been
Right.
direct to consumer this whole time. We finally opened the door to retail this year, and then this morning we signed on a land deal that we're going to be building a 11,000 square foot warehouse to move into.
Nice.
So yeah, so we just closed on that, and so that was a big
Yeah,
milestone.
congratulations. Yeah,
And it's awesome to see. And I think people. We just went to one of the stores that have our product, and there's all these cheap products, in the cosmetic aisles,
sure.
men's things, and they're literally built under $10 per product, and they have another 20% off on top of that, and the shelves are full. And then we went over to our stuff, to the Johnny Slick stuff, and there was two products left. And we're premium priced, we're American made, all organic. They put us on the top shelf, and they were sold out.
Wow.
And I was like, America wants quality products across the board. I think they appreciate quality products. I think they
Right.
appreciate American made. And it just shows right there. So it was just a
Totally.
cool thing. And
Yeah.
it's been really rad to be able to provide products that help people that are having dry skin, help people that have eczema. We get messages from mothers and fathers saying, hey, my kid's got really bad eczema and dried skin. We've been using your stuff. It's completely cleared up. And I'm like,
That's what
right
it's
on.
all about, brother.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's Johnny Slicks, man. We've just been hammering it, and it's hard. It's hard being American made, trying to source things through the pandemic, with everything going on. But the good thing is now with the whole world, like all of a sudden, American made looks really good, and
Right.
so it's kind of our time to shine. We've been at this for over 7 years now, and all of our products that we source, we don't outsource anything. We're the manufacturer,
Right.
we're the fulfiller. So we've built our team, and we really, early on, we were told outsource everything,
Hmm.
outsource your manufacturing, outsource your fulfillment, outsource your customer service. I'm like, how does that help America?
Right.
And so now we have over 30 employees, and we got whole families working for us. Like we've
Sweet.
got we've got people that are in our executive staff. We have that have their wives working in fulfillment, their kids are working in manufacturing, and it's like a family. And so when you buy from us, if you go to the website, you can look at us and you know exactly who you're supporting. So
Right.
when you buy Johnny Slicks, every dollar you spend stays in America.
Cool.
It goes to those families. It puts food on the table. It pays for braces. It pays for soccer practice. It pays for all the different things.
Right.
It's not going to some huge corporation that is getting farmed out overseas. It's just not. It's staying right here, and I think that's just freaking rad.
That's awesome. Yeah. Where's your factory?
Right outside of Wilmington.
It's right there. Okay.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
right outside of Wilmington, out the road, about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you say you've been direct to consumer, but it's now going retail. Where are the
Yeah.
what retail outlets can they be found in?
So, there are, ironically enough, our first retail deal through kind of just fate was the Marine Corps Exchange.
Oh,
So
nice.
on base, we're talking a couple of the other military exchanges. There's a lot of mom and pop stores that we've already put in. So we kind of systematically we're now into we just now are in negotiations with the more national. So we're talking to HEB, Publix, CVS. Those are all currently ongoing. Um, so all very exciting stuff.
Oh, that's going to be huge when that happens. You're going to have
Yeah,
to, you've already
yeah.
got the new warehouse, but you may have to expand your manufacturing a whole lot.
Oh yeah, and what's great about the way that we manufacture, and my business partner John is kind of like he's more on the manufacturing side, I'm on the business side,
Right.
and marketing side. So we are primed for it. Like we can support it. So
Right.
we've gotten some pretty big orders thus far. We signed a pretty big deal with Amazon. So we our products are
Ah,
we're growing on Amazon rapidly, and yeah, we can support it. We'll make it happen.
yeah. Well, once
Yeah.
you're out there in Amazon, Walmart, et cetera, CVS, Walgreens, I mean, then you've hit it big.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We feel like we already hit it big, but it's only getting bigger.
Yeah.
Um, and the team's loving it. It's just, we have a great culture, and we have a really, really great culture, and everybody loves working here. And it's cool. Yeah.
That's totally cool. Yeah. All right. Well, Johnny Slicks, did that springboard you into something else, or was that just kind of an intermediate step there? Or
No,
what?
it just kind of it just it that was the seventh business, and then that sort of
Okay.
taken off. That sort of taken off, and I started closing things down. The other ones down. I had some brick and mortar businesses and some other online e-commerce businesses that we sold off a couple. Some I just shut down and then liquidated and shut down. And then the other one, ironically enough, in around 2018, I became a managing partner of Core Medical Group out of Florida.
Yeah.
It's a hormone replacement therapy, a health optimization clinic. And that was through my own journey, realizing when I got out, when I told you about that dark time that I was having from 2012 to 2014, I found out that my testosterone level, and I was probably 31, Bill, was a 91.
Oh my God. That's close to zero,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
and I like, no wonder you're depressed. No wonder
Yeah.
you're suicidal, right? And so I got a and a friend of mine told me, he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm not trying," he was a civilian. He goes, "Nick, I'm not trying to overstep by any means." He goes, "But I really think you should get a hormone test and see where you're at." So it's been well over 10 years now, and so by 2018, I became kind of like a online champion for TRT, if you will. Like I was
Right.
really like, hey guys, I'm not saying get on TRT, but get your blood tested, figure out what's going on, make educated decisions about your health. Don't rely on someone to tell you
Right.
what's going on, right? And through a friend, I'm linked up with the Sydney Gordon, the CEO of Core Medical, and we started working to get. He started being, Core became my provider, and then after that, we started working together and really just bringing, educating people, educating veterans and men, post 30 on how important your hormones are, not just your testosterone level, but all of them and how they all play in together,
Right.
for your overall health. And Bill, we have saved so many people's lives. We have gotten people off SSRIs. We have saved marriages. We have saved people's. I mean, it's just been amazing. And the one thing that I really can say about Core that we've stuck to is we are not an online, we're a nationwide clinic, but we're not an online clinic. Like if you have we Sydney Gordon, the CEO, is super passionate about this person to person connection. Like
Yeah.
he wants if you're a patient, he wants you to be able to have the ability to talk to another human being, not some online portal or an app or anything like that. You have to do like you
Right.
you have a patient coordinator. You can talk to the patient coordinator. You can schedule an appointment with the doc, no matter where you're at in the nation, to have your concerns addressed as a human being.
Well, nice.
And I think that's really one of the biggest things that have put us to the growth where we're at.
No, that is very cool. I mean, as you know, more and more, we're relying on telehealth and just so
Yeah.
many impersonal ways that are boilerplate solutions to, kind of like, when you came out of the VA and they're handing you a handful of pills kind of thing. It's like, are you really thinking through this person's situation here, So,
Yeah. And then the last one, the thing that I'll probably do until the day I die is the Agogi. Me and my former teammate, Josh Hansberger, started the Agogi in 2018. And that has just evolved, continuously evolved into this platform and community. Everything that we've learned, everything that we've done in business and personal growth and rebuilding our families, rebuilding relationships with our wives, getting in shape, eating better, is all come from the Agogi. And that's our men's coaching community, where we offer online. We have group coaching, online coaching, but it is a community of people. And what's crazy, Bill, is we have everybody from a 17-year-old in there to a 74-year-old in there, all
wow.
learning from each other and growing in the same way. We just did a men's retreat where Joe, our eldest member in the community, 74 years old, and he just sent me a message. He goes, Nick, I coming back from the retreat. He goes, my brother-in-law said, Joe, you seem a lot different after this last retreat. And he wanted to share some of the details with me of how he's felt different. And it's just man, it just warms my heart to be able to take everything, all of the pain, all of the loss, all of the trauma, and turn that into something really, really beautiful, and to use that as a tool to help men rebuild their marriages, become better fathers, make more money. And just really like own their life, become the captain of their own ship and the CEO of their own life, and have that. I mean, I think men are more disconnected. Men are more disconnected today than ever, even though we're in this like deeply connected world. 2025, we're more connected than
Right.
we ever have been. Yet men are more disconnected than they ever have been. So to be able to create this connection, to create them a place where they can be vulnerable, be open, is a big deal.
Oh, totally. So who are the candidates for this Agogi program that you have?
Men that want to take ownership of their life, that want to become that want to get fit, become more healthier, set the example for their husband, as a husband for their wives and their kids. Those are the type of guys that
Right.
really we cater to. Um, that we see the average age is like 30 to 55, but then we have our outliers of
Right.
18 to 74. Um, but yeah, we meet 3 times a week online, and then we have a ton of link ups and retreats and different things that we do in person. Because I just feel like you have to break bread with each other. We have to link up in person,
Right.
and we've just built this amazing community. And what's crazy is we've got guys in there that have literally been there since the beginning. They're still in there.
Right.
They like once we get into this community, it's like you can't leave.
One thing I noticed in reading about it on your website is it's very high touch. And like you say, you've got 3 times a week calls and,
Yeah,
lots of opportunities for interactions with others. It's not one of these things where it's like, you kind of drop in every now and then, but
no.
no, nothing like that. Yeah.
No, and we built and last year I felt really called. I felt God called me to really build a more educational platform. So then we went heavy into what we call the 4 phases is and phase one is mastering yourself. So I built this entire educational platform for what it means for a man to master himself. And
Right.
then after that, phase two is leading your family. You can't lead your family until you can master yourself. right? Like
Right.
otherwise your wife won't take you seriously, your kids won't take you seriously. You have to live it, you have to breathe it, you have to embody it. So then we rehabilitate, we talk about the relationship in the home and dating your wife and letting go of resentment and rebuild if your wife resents you for something that you did, how you deal with that, how you get rid of that resentment. So we've built that in there. And then we went heavily into generational wealth and investing, and mastering your finances in phase three. So a lot of what the wealthy do, but they don't tell us. So a lot of unconventional methods that I've learned over the years, how to get your budget in order, how to make more money, how to invest properly, what to invest in, how to protect your family and your money, in phase three. And then phase four is leaders creating more leaders,
Right.
the legacy. Everything you've done from phase one to phase three, what are you doing now for the next generation, whether it's your family, whether it's your community, whatever, but really breaking down all of that into that. So anyways, that's the four phases. That's the yogi. That's what Nick does on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, that's a great method there. And I was kind of looking at your agogi. I probably mispronounced that just now. Agogi pillars there. You had
Yeah,
fitness, discipline, belief, and tribe. And I guess
yeah,
that kind of all interacts with what you just talked about there.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And I noticed too, I mean, you have a lot of ways that people can interact, a lot of resources, a lot of ebooks that are out there.
Mhm.
And they're really nice bite-sized kind of things, whether it's as simple as developing your core or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But yeah, go
We
ahead.
just launched. I just took it. So I coach in 6 week sessions. So we just for free. I took the not this week one. We're talking about the 1% man this time, this 6 weeks. But the last one was reclaim basically like who you are as a man. And it just resonated with the community so much that I was like, oh, I got to share this with the public. So we re-edited it, took all the like the community stuff out of it and just left the lesson, and we're giving it away for free. So if you go on my website, and go to the store, you'll be able to download the 6 week coaching lesson for free, and you'll get all
Oh,
six
wow.
lessons. So and it goes into some pretty in-depth stuff, and I think guys are going to really really enjoy it. So
Oh, that's awesome that you do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, we can go and spin off in so many different directions right now. I mean, I did want to mention though this book that you wrote there about excommunicated warrior. Was that kind of one of your first works out there to
It
kind of,
was. It was
yeah,
that came from my transition, the excommunicated warrior, the seven stage transition. That was really that's the whole story that we talked about. That was
yeah,
my transitioning out of the Marine Corps, and what I had to do to get better. And I'm working on a part two version of that, like an always forward version of that, of what comes next. So that's been in the works for quite some time.
yeah, because you have a lot of time on your hands and you just want to sit
Yeah,
down
right.
and write another
Right.
book.
There's another thing I gotta do. See, there's a toxic trait that you see happening here, right?
Right. No, I totally get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
we all have too many irons in the fire.
yeah.
Yeah. So, trying to put a bow on this a little bit here. Where are the best places that people should follow you? I mean, should they go to your website, your social media? I mean, you've
I
got a lot of different places to
Yeah,
look
if
for.
you want to engage with me directly, the easiest way for me to engage with you is Instagram. I know that's not
Okay.
everybody's cup of tea. I do post on YouTube regularly. I do long form content on YouTube,
Right.
but I'm on every social media platform. But I'm heavily if Instagram DMs is just a easy way for me to actually communicate with people, and I like to do that, when I can. So that's the easiest way. All of my stuff's on my website, but I'm easy to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to this and you want to talk to me, it's not hard to do.
Gotcha. And we'll put everything in the show notes. But what is your Instagram for those people who just want to
It's
listen?
good luck. It's my name, Nick Koumalatsos. So you can type in Nickkou and it usually pops up.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a long name, but a Greek name like that is actually pretty easy to pronounce.
Once you figure it out, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all. And then what your website is?
NickKoumalatsos.com.
All right. Again, just the way it sounds.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Nick, what do we missed here? I mean, I could have probably asked you a lot more questions, but I don't want to drag it out too long. But what kind of things haven't we touched upon yet?
I guess the only other thing is I am hosting another retreat in October in Kona. So if there's anybody in there that, if you hit the roller coaster ride of like starting and stopping and falling off the wagon, there's something internally that's causing that to happen.
Right.
There's a bit of trauma. There's something that causes you to self-sabotage. That's what this retreat's really about. So we get a bunch of guys together and we do some really cool stuff. So we'll be out in Kona, Hawaii in October to do that. I've got some slots left open in that. And then the next thing, and this is just a teaser, we can get into it. I'm actually about to walk into an appointment. I got selected to be a producer on the Punisher.
Yeah.
And so we've been working on that since last November. I worked on Born Again in 2023 with John Bernthal as playing Frank Castle, and we're working on this one this summer. So that's what's next,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kona is such a dump, but I guess people put up with that place. But
right?
for those of us who, like myself, actually, who are totally clueless when it comes to pop culture, describe a little bit more about what that project's all about.
So Frank Castle is actually, it's ironic. So Frank Castle is a Marvel character who is a former Force Recon Marine, Special Operations Marine, that his family is killed by a group of criminals, and then he goes on this like revenge,
Right.
life and killing all the bad guys. So John read my book, and we connected through Sydney Gordon and the CEO of Core, and we just kind of hit it off, and we started talking about these concepts in my book, and then and how it kind of, and he already played Frank, and so anyways, we hit it off, and then we got this opportunity. He's like, hey, could you come on as a producer? And he gave me the
Right.
opportunity to kind of help him bring some more realistic, uh, you know. Realism from special operations
Mm.
and that character and my story to this character to make it just really authentic to the viewer. And so that's what we're going to try to do. And his words is we're going to do it right or we don't do it at all. And so
Yeah.
like
There you
that's what
go.
that's what we're doing. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I was trying to figure what the tie-in there was because see, all
Yeah.
this we talked about, you had no Hollywood background,
Yeah.
but now I see exactly where it's coming from. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned a little bit ago, I want to go back to there is you mentioned in your group you've got a 17-year-old, and I'm wondering what was his motivation to want to be part of this group? Do you know?
So we've had multiple people come up, and it was really like the core values and morals. He's like, I want to set myself up for success. I see my peers that go down the road of drinking and doing drugs and just throwing money away and just not saving. So he's like, I just want to be like, I want to know what you know now at 17.
Hmm.
Imagine if we knew that. So imagine a 17-year-old that gets in a group like this and learns all these lessons from guys that are having to go through it at 40, 50 years old. And they
Right.
learn generational wealth. They learn how to communicate with women. They learn how to master themselves at a young age. What type of success that gentleman's going to have later in life, right?
That's so cool. He wants to be a sponge like that.
Yeah,
I'm a high school coach, and whether it's running or just about life, you talk to these kids, and you know that for 90% of them, it's going in one ear and out the other. But
yeah,
you hope that some of it sticks with whoever out there. But it's cool. This kid's been very intentional in wanting to be part
yeah,
of this, and actually like, hey, there's a lot to be gained from these old folks out there, so to speak.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Nick, I appreciate this so much. This has been super fun talking to you. I just love how you've just taken on the world, and basically you're not going to let any opportunity run away from you here, and you're just going to go
Sure.
dive into it full bore. So that's very cool. So I really appreciate you spending the time here from the front of your car, and it's great we were able to find this time to connect.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Well, you have a great afternoon, big guy.
All right. Bye.
Bye.